Sit in your anger. Sit into that frustration. Be mad. Saved. That's not just salvation. Saved from horniness, saved from killing somebody, saved from cussing somebody out. You're gonna be saved.
And it's not abnormal for you to be aroused. So you have to understand and have that thought in your mind that, okay, I'm horny right now, but it is not normal to be, it's not normal to be horny. Now, it is actually abnormal if you are never sexually aroused. That means, there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay. I'm not saying it like that. But it's okay to be sexually aroused. Now, what I would
give it to God. He wants that anger. He wants it because he already knows it's there. So it's like, why are you trying to mask?
Friends, welcome. It is the season 2 finale. If you are in the chat, go ahead and let us know that you are here. Let us know that you are watching. Drop a hey emoji, just a wave in the hands. Let us know that you are here. So today, as you guys can tell from my board, Holy but Horny Part 2. All right, so this is the season 2 finale. We have a Q&A session. We're doing a giveaway. So you definitely want to share this and make sure, tell your friends to come on. Reflections Being One podcast is now live. All right, make sure I share this on my page. But all right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and add on the friends. Again, once you come on, just let us know that you are watching and that you are here. Hey, Monica.
Hello. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
Finale.
Yes, you ready?
Girl, I'm ready.
Let's talk about it.
So nice. All right. Lafayette.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
It's season 2 finale.
Where did time go? We're already in December.
Right. Lafayette was on the season 1 and he made it back to season 2. So definitely excited. I'm glad you were able to be a part of both seasons. Definitely appreciate your point of view was definitely appreciated on this season. So I just want to thank you for watching with us for 2 seasons for sure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. All right, guys. So we are talking Holy but Horny, and we are doing a part 2. So we're running it back. So last time we did Holy but Horny, we got a lot of comments. We got a lot of feedback on that. So I decided, you know what? Let's do a part 2, and this time let's do a Q&A and answer some questions. So on this season, on season 2 of the Reflections of Conversation with Friends, we had Monica, we had Lafayette, and we also had Villard. But unfortunately, Villard could not make it for the season finale. And so we have a special guest, a special friend joining us on the live today. So we're going to go ahead and add him. Hey, West.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Rodney. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Thank you so much for joining our live and coming on as a friend.
Happy to be here.
All right, guys. So on the board, again, we have Holy but Horny Part 2. All right. So we're running it back. We're running this conversation back, but this time we had some questions. And so this is a 2-hour special. We're going to get right into the questions because the questions I feel like are a little weighty and they might take some time to answer. And as we're answering questions, we'll take breaks and do giveaways as well. All right. So y'all ready for the question?
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. All right, so the first question on the board, it says, what can the church do differently on how they approach the conversation of sex to young people? So I decided to do that question first to kind of start off, the conversation since we are talking about it. So how do you guys feel the church should approach the conversation differently when it talks about sex to young people?
I think they should actually start having the conversation outside of sex is wrong. I think that outside of sex is wrong, that's the most conversation a lot of us who have been in church have heard being children or young adults.
Absolutely.
I agree. I was going to say stop, saying that sex is a sin. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's natural. God has, ordained it, but in the marriage. So it's very important that the church, acknowledges that. And when they go about that conversation, they start there. And just letting you know that when you're singleness, it's time to focus on you. It's time to, focus on some things within yourself. And it's not all about sex, but at the same time, just knowing that it's not bad, like Lafayette said.
Sometimes the church approaches the conversation from a kind of defensive approach because they kind of sometimes assume that the kids are already having sex, so they kind of want to like kind of stop it. So I think that the conversation needs to be had, period, because it's not had sometimes. And just start the conversation and like remind like the youth that sex isn't a bad thing. Like Monica said, it's God ordained, but just encourage and like teach the youth like what it is and like what it means, and so they can like not be so fearful about it, because sometimes like kids have questions and they don't ask those questions because all they hear is like sex is bad, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. But if we have the conversation from a different viewpoint and not like a negative standpoint, then I feel like the youth will be more willing to listen to the church.
That's good.
Right. That is good. And you made a valid point when you talked about like the mindset or already their approach that they already have, where they're like already basically already concluded the fact like, okay, they're having sex, so we're gonna like don't be having sex, you go to hell type of stuff, rather than not coming and talking about sex out of love. It's more out of like, like that different idea. And I feel like what it does, it just forces like young people, it forces us to just be like sneaky about it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, well, they were mad when they were talking to us about it, so obviously this is not something to talk about. And if we're gonna do it, we're gonna be sneaky and silent about it, and so definitely, like, I know sometimes I have conversations with people, and when we talk about like how early like the sex talk should be had, like even in church with young people, it's like different opinions, but I feel like just the simple fact, like I didn't learn till my grown age that like sex was God's idea, like, and that God made sex. Like I didn't even learn that until I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like, and knowing that, it had me look at it in such a different way, like with such a different perspective. And it's like, it like helped me to like even honor that, So definitely how they should approach it, like how you said, like not from a place of already condemning us for it, even if we're not doing it right, but from a place of love for sure. Tyra says, same, I learned later, right? Like I'm just like, what? I've been in church my whole life, like what?
Yeah, a lot of young people have that same testimony. That's like they don't learn it from their parents sometimes, because the church sometimes leads the parents and how they approach sex. So if the church isn't speaking about it, the parents don't speak about it either. So we learn it from our friends and other places.
Ty said, I learned at 15 years old. So what exactly did you learn at 15 years old, Ty? All right. We made our that question. What can the church do differently on how they approach the conversation of sex to young people? All right, we go with that one.
Well, like we said, just in conclusion, but I just want to say that I learned it two different ways, both from the church. So one was condemning it, and the other side of that, people in the congregation, were telling me something different. I know we had the conversation of a lot of exposure comes from not necessarily the pulpit, but it comes from people that's sitting next to you, whether that's a positive influence or a negative. And in my case, it just so happened to be negative. So a lot of the stuff that I wasn't necessarily exposed to in the school system, I was exposed to in the church. with the woman right next to me. So, showing me pictures, explicit pictures, showing me, telling me about different engages that they've had, sexual, it was very much, I don't want to say it was just weird. It was like the church is telling me not to do it, but yet people in the church are doing it. So it was some type of discrepancy going on. I was really trying to figure out, well, which side am I going to take? It was almost like having the devil and the angel on one side, and you got to kind of pick to see what side you're going to go on. So I think that the church definitely needs to have the conversation and not just keep saying, don't do it, because at the end of the day, we know what happens. So if you have the conversation of what God intended for it to be, you'll be more inclined to actually honor that.
Agreed. Tara says, and the school is teaching a lot earlier, and when you find out your kid knows about it, you want to get mad. Very true, Tara. Kiana says, I learned from all the wrong places. And it's just like, if we're learning everything else from the church, why not are we being taught this properly? The idea of it properly is my question. And I feel like maybe the church didn't even grasp the idea of it as well, that it is something good. I don't know. I feel like maybe they just steered away from even maybe having the conversation like that, because they felt like if they had that conversation, it might encourage the young people to do it. What do y'all think?
My question would be, what experience have they had with sex? Because a lot of older, I'm not sure they had good experiences with it. So now they're just going to tell you to shy away from it. You don't know what happened to them to make them be so callous towards sex. Because a lot of old people, that's a no-no. You don't talk about that. And maybe it's because of, at least in my experience, it was a lot of women who did the teaching, a lot of women involved in the church. So you don't know what they were subject to as wives in their marriages that could have possibly made them just you know what? Don't do it at all, because I ain't like it, Because a lot of stuff happened back in the day. A lot of stuff would happen. And it was considered acceptable. Women didn't have the same freedom sexually that they have now. It was a very different thing. And, of course, you really didn't hear men. I didn't hear men talking about it at all. So, yeah.
That's a good point, because I feel like, especially back in the day, I feel like women, they were just more so compliant, where it's just all right, I'm gonna lay here, you know what I mean, it wasn't an experience, I feel like. And so, and I feel like even though people got married, if they were in the church, it was still this isn't really good, this is just for reproduction, which is a question, and is not something to be pleasurable, or you know what I mean? I feel like it was still nasty, it's a nasty thing, you know what I mean? I don't think they seen it as, okay, this is God's idea, this is what God wanted, this is an act of worship,
Tyra
says, well, I feel like if you are married and say sex is not all that, then you must ain't getting it right.
Tyra, where's your filter, Tyra?
But that's why it's meant in marriage, because you're supposed to be able to have those conversations. I ain't gonna lie, we all know I stepped out before marriage, of course. And, it'll be times where I'm that was not it. You know what I mean? But if I was married in a relationship, I would actually feel more comfortable telling my spouse, which you should, hey, that wasn't what it could have been. This is what I like. And it also gives your partner the opportunity to get to know you. That's what it's all about. So if it ain't right, it's probably because it's just not in the right realm. And if your marriage sex ain't right, then y'all just not talking about, or you're not being real with each other. And I think we got to be real with each other as well when that time comes. I'm going to be real.
Tara say ain't none. but I feel too, because we were talking about so the last conversation we had about holy but horny, and we're talking about embracing our sexuality. I feel like that lack of the embracing the sexuality part is probably what they're lacking, you know what I mean? Because it's I feel like they feel like they don't have a say in how this goes. And I feel like, especially with women in the church, it's, you submit to the husband. And so I feel like it's a matter of, okay, whatever he says, whatever he wants to do, that's just what it is. And we never, women don't have a say, And I feel like that's where it's just they're not being real about, well, this is not what I want, because they probably felt like they couldn't, because right. I'm do whatever he says and that's it.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility.
I think, yeah. I also find it unacceptable. I think.
Oh, good. Monica said it's unacceptable. No, for real. And I feel like, you know, embrace your sexuality. Like, you married, like, figured it out.
Figure it out. I mean, y'all gonna be married all these years.
Figure it out. Because, baby, who you got, like, that's all you're gonna have. Like,
and we got to get out the stigma that it's a one-way street. You know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we just getting there, Monica. We just getting there. Some people ain't got there yet.
That's true.
You're right. It's a
Some
process.
people will never get there. I'm just saying, because I feel like I know a lot of the marriages I saw in church. They didn't make me want to get married. Very few did. It didn't look exciting. It was, we in church all the time. We always going places with the church. I got to do this for pastor. Why would anybody want that? And why would I wait for that? Look at it from a youth perspective.
Why would I wait for that? No, that's true. And some of them relationships look so forced. They look so miserable sitting next to each other. Some of them didn't want to sit next to each other. And when I'm saying some of them, I'm talking about even my family. Okay, so you think about it. If you see all of these relationships within the church and you're in the church, your relationship probably is going to mimic what you see. So we got to start changing some things in the church in order for us to start changing and shifting some things within our families, because ultimately that's where these generational curses come from. So if we see these things happening, the church has to have these conversations in order for us to see something different, including sex. So
No, that is definitely true. Lavia said, y'all. He said, y'all are not inspiring me to get married. Okay. So why would I wait for
marriage is not something that I'm just like, oh, I want to get married. I done seen so many happy marriages. That has not been my story at all. Like, no.
Ooh. Hey Alexis, hey Kiana. Alexis said all facts, but you know, I heard like I was part of like this new app or whatever it's called, Clubhouse, and they were having a conversation, and they were like, somebody had mentioned they were like kingdom relationships. What something about looks boring, like basically like Christian relationships look boring. Look at Lafayette say yeah, but I feel like that's a lot of people's like take or perspective on it, because I just feel like people just be so religious, and like y'all said, like I feel like they probably didn't pick that person. They probably got forced to marry them. It probably just made sense because maybe they grew up in the same church. Tyra said, don't get me started on that. And you know, like I just feel like you can have fun and be like holy and stuff. She said it is not boring. Tyra, I feel you. No, for real. But it's not boring. I just feel like they make it seem that way.
But I think we see it or we perceive it that way. And I think that's why we also like in our dating lives, like we're like, oh, if I get a spiritual partner, it's going to be so boring, so lame. But even Tyra, like inspiration for one. And she was like, it's not boring. You know what I mean? Like there's things that you can do. It's not all about sex. We're not having sex. We don't need to have sex. You know what I mean? Like that's awesome. And I think that, you know, message needs to be clearer and it needs to be out there more, and we need to see more of that so that way we'll be more inclined to seek that, because at the end of the day that's what God has for us. But if we're just looking for the quick fix, or we're looking for something that's going to make me temporarily happy, or something somebody I can go to the club with every Saturday, like that's not ultimately what I want, you know what I mean? But back in the day, maybe so, when my life wasn't necessarily right. So I think that we have to kind of change the trajectory of our mindset of like these Christian relationships as being boring. But in order for that to happen, we got to talk about, well, what does a fun, exciting Christian relationship actually look like? And we don't see enough of that.
We don't. All they tell us is don't have sex, and we're just like, okay. It's like, right. Oh, okay. Woo. Okay. Let's get to the next. Let me see what I have here. All right, so I was doing a trivia on the a podcast page on Instagram, and so I want to shout out the winners and share their prize. So we had Gabby and Kayla. I shared that on the last podcast episode, but congrats to y'all. It was the Proverbs Challenge, and they won. So if you guys are on live, or if you guys see this later, be sure to send me your Cash App name, send y'all prize. Y'all want some money and your mailing address, because I will be sending you guys a free Kingdom Citizen shirt. Y'all want a shirt? So make sure you guys send me your sizes and your mailing address. And congrats again on winning the first trivia last month. All right. So Tyra said, I knew it. Tyra, listen, everybody who participated, I'm going to send you a message. I'm going to let you know how many points you did get. And I still want to congratulate you guys for even participating. You know when you got the little award, the little thing for participating, y'all gonna get that. All right.
It's okay. I know I ain't gonna need this. It's
a virtual award.
Little participation ribbon.
Right. Participation ribbon. Thank you for participating. All right. So the next question, y'all, is sex for pleasure or reproduction?
Is this a question?
Easy. Easy answer. It better be for both, okay?
Right.
Okay, so we all agree. Both? No, but people be thinking that people will argue that sex for reproduction.
Some churches teach that too.
Yeah.
Some churches
do.
Teach that.
This Tyra said both. Right. Like people really argue that sex is for reproduction, and we just Okay, cool. We all say both.
Question. I got a follow-up question. Is it wrong to only seek sex for pleasure and not reproduction if you are married? Like, what if you don't want to have babies and you are married? Is that wrong? Because we got so many.
See, and I think about it like, what if? Okay, because let's say we were like, okay, sex for reproduction, but let's say that the woman is like barren, like she can't have children, like she can't bear children. So what do we say then? Like, can't have sex?
Going ahead. I'm just joking. I'm just playing.
No, because I think about stuff like that, because when people argue that sex is for reproduction, and I'm just like, okay, but what if they can't like reproduce? Like, what if they can't? So what do we tell that person, or what we tell that couple?
It can't be no sex for you. That's not a fair answer.
Right.
We can all just mind our own business when it comes to that world. Let people figure out their marriages and what they want to do in their sex life, and we can all be happy.
I think sex within the framework of marriage, you know what I mean, with you and your spouse, with you and your partner, I want to say free reign, because somebody can put something in there that's probably not supposed to be in there. But for the most part, y'all have the autonomy to do it for reproduction or for pleasure or for both. That's my intention.
Yeah, I agree with you, Monica. It's nobody's business. If it's within the confines of marriage, that's between y'all two. Like, it's
right
business.
Either way, it ain't nobody's business. We all grown, married or not.
When I'm married, it ain't gonna always be for reproduction. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, right. Tyra said, why are we having sex if it ain't pleasure?
People do it.
Tyra says, I mean, some marriages like to wait a year or two before they have kids. Right. And is that wrong? Like me, I like to enjoy my husband at least a year first personally. Me too, Tyra. Me too. Is birth control wrong for married couples? How y'all feel about that?
That ain't for me to speak on. So personally, I don't think so, but I know some people's argument will be it's abortion in a way. So, but personal convictions for me, that's how I say it. If you are convicted about it, then don't do it. Live your life, like let God.
Is it wrong? So the question is it wrong? Now I've heard like different couples, they'll like talk about that, like let's say they were using like like birth control, and then they like, you know, heard from God and it was just like, okay, like we can't be doing it anymore. Like God convicted us. I feel like they got that conviction, you know what I mean? But to say like it's wrong, and I guess what you said, Lafayette, about like, you know, the topic of, oh, it's kind of like abortion in a sense, because you're like, you know, kind of aborting that to happen. But it's like, is it wrong? I don't know. I can't say yes or no.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to say that it's wrong.
Yeah.
I think again it's up to you and your partner, but I don't know. If I spoke for myself, I could give you my answer, but you know, in regard to other people, I can't tell you because marriage gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. No, okay. Yeah, I feel like it's your conviction, and there's like certain things like people will ask, and I'm like, to be honest, I haven't seen God about that to like be like, okay, like I struggle with strong conviction about that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not married, and you know, I don't have that. You know, there's not something that I'm worrying about right now to be like, okay, God, what do you think about this or whatever? I haven't like see God about that, so I can't really confidently give an answer. You know, Kiana says the Bible said, "Let the breast satisfy you always." It sure does. It does. It does. Tyra says, "Speak, daughter of God." Oh, God. Okay.
And amen.
And amen. All right. So we said sex, both. Okay. Next question is there really such a thing as a soulmate?
I mean, I would say if you feel like you have a connection with a person and you want to consider them your soulmate, then sure, I guess there is a such thing as a soulmate. If the connection is that strong and you feel that way about that person, I feel like you could consider that person your soulmate.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a soulmate and is there being the one is different. And I feel like, because I think about even like Jonathan and David's relationship, I feel like that was like a kind of like a soulmate type of ideal. Like, you know, like I don't feel like it's necessarily, I don't know. Like I just feel like that's the part. I don't know. Joshua says Solomon was enjoying the bosom. I'm done. That's true though. He was getting him into trouble.
Yeah.
But is there such thing as a soulmate? I agree, Wes. I say yeah. Like I feel like if you feel like that connection in your soul, then I feel like that can be your soulmate. Now, can you have more than one soulmate?
Possibly.
I say yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
I say yeah.
Let's look at the definition.
All right.
A person ideally suited to another as a close friend or romantic partner. So with that definition, I would say yes. And I think that just because you consider them a soulmate don't mean that it was supposed to be yours. And I think that's where soul ties come from too. So I don't know. I haven't really studied that one enough to like really speak on it, but I think you can have more than one. Doesn't mean that it's the intentional soulmate that God had for you.
And then also too, like I don't think it's just a matter of just relationship, like, you know, an intimate relationship, but like friends as well. Like I always think when I hear a soulmate or like a soul tie, I think about Jonathan and David in the Bible, who had that really like close relationship where it was just like I would literally do anything, like I'll lay my life type of stuff, type of ordeal, type of relationship. So yeah, I believe there's in soulmates, and I believe that you can have more than one. It's not like a one thing to me. Tyra says, and Solomon was wise and still enjoying the bosom. LOL. I'm not playing with y'all in the comments. All right. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now we have a giveaway question. And this giveaway well, first let's answer the question first, and I'll tell y'all what the prize is. But the question is, what was the first December Bible study called this past Wednesday on the Being One podcast page? So for December, I've started, what I'm doing is a Bible study weekly. And this past Wednesday, I posted a video. And what was that Bible study called? So y'all let me know in the comments. Whoever's the first one to answer will get the prize. Oosh. I'm waiting for Tyra, Kiana, Alexis, It's who else is in here? Somebody got to know. All right, as y'all, I'm gonna type it in right quick. Hold on, and I'm gonna give y'all the next. What was the question? All right, let me post it for you. All right, so as they are answering that, the first person to get it will win. Let's move on to the next question.
Jasmine.
Oh, okay, Jasmine got it. All right, Jasmine. All right, consequence of unbelief. She said I had to answer my. Oh, okay, you missed it, Tyra. All right, good job, Jasmine. So DM me. So you're gonna get a shirt, either a red or a black. I think you have the black one, so you probably want the red one. So just hit me up and send me your address so I can send you your prize. Good job. All right, so next question. All right, this one's big. All right. This one says, what if you're in a relationship, but you already gave the cookies away, but you start your journey with God? How do you stray away from sexual activities, and how do you explain this to your partner?
Y'all got that one.
So, personal experiences. Oh, Jasmine said, "Woohoo!" You're welcome, Jazz. Good job. All right, so I can answer this. So definitely, real life. You start your journey with God, and you stray away from sexuality. How you explain this? You just have to say it. You just got to tell them, like, for like, there's no like lingering. There's no like playing it. Like, no, you literally got to say, all right, we need to have a conversation. I know we've been doing X, Y, and Z. But I've gotten serious with my relationship with God, and as I'm getting serious, like, I'm trying to do it right. I'm trying to live holy. I'm not, having sex or doing any other sexual activities. And it's either you still want to, whatever relationship that we have, or I understand. Like, you just have to be real. Like, there's no, making him or making her drag along, and you never be real about what it is that you're doing. You know what I mean? So then it gives that person the opportunity to say, yes, I'm sticking with you, or you know what, I can't have a relationship that I'm not having sex or doing sexual activities. And you just got to be okay. You got to be like, I understand, right? That was for me.
And I would also say that it has to be intentional on both sides. Like, both sides have to agree. There can't be like a disconnect there. There can't be one person trying and putting in the effort to set boundaries. The other person is still kind of like, well, I'm still trying to do X, Y, and Z. So, like, if there's a disconnect, then you got to figure it out, or you got
to figure it out.
So, do y'all think that? Because I feel like after you cross the line and had sex, it's kind of hard to go back. So, does that mean you have to refrain from everything? Because anything could lead to sex at that point if y'all have already been having sex.
That's hard.
Like, does that mean you have to just stop everything, or what do y'all think?
Yeah.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you know yourselves, you know what kind of boundaries you need in order to walk that path where you're not putting yourself at risk of doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, if y'all know what y'all was doing and y'all know how y'all was getting there, then y'all should figure out how to not.
Yeah. And you don't just go from experience, you don't just go from weak to strong. It doesn't happen that way. So even though I may say, God, I want to start this new journey, whatever the case is, if I was just having sex yesterday, I can't just say I'm not going to do it today, because those temptations are going to continue to come. So it's just important, like, Wes said, y'all on the same page. And I think that it's important that we aren't having sex in general for this exact reason, because once you open up that door, it does make you really not have a true say of who you're dealing with, because you don't really know their true intentions. If y'all having sex, that might be all they're in it for. So when you do step away from that, when you do make that decision, when you do say, what's up, like, these are my boundaries, this is where I'm going, if they don't have maybe at least the same mentality, or at least, a understanding of where you're coming from, then they're probably not the person for you. And maybe they might be the person for you, but where they currently are, that mindset, that mentality, maybe they're not ready, and maybe you're not ready. So maybe when it is time to part those ways, that could be a very opportune time for you guys to really, in your singleness, truly understand the importance of being celibate, understand the importance of getting to know yourself, working on some areas where you are weak, and allowing God to make you strong in those areas. So if you do come back together, you can come back whole versus like Wes again said, I'm over here trying and you over here tempting me. That's not a good mix. It's not going to work. So,
and like, and I feel like you just have to just continue to be real, like throughout the whole thing. Because if they say like, "Oh yeah, I love you," experience, right? If they say, "Yeah, I love you, I'm gonna stick it through," and stuff like that, and then like later down, like a few weeks in, it's like, "Oh, you was serious?" Like, and it's just if you don't get out my way, but like, you have to be
like,
but that's like, no, and you have to be like, yes, no, you have, you know what I mean? You have some saying like you have to literally like see God. Like you can't just be like, okay, yeah, God, I'm not gonna do it, and then you're not like seeking God's face, because it's easy to just go back to what you were doing. You know what I mean? And then the whole like Jasmine and Tyra in the comments were talking about setting those boundaries, like is so vital, and you have to be true to yourself. You have to be real with yourself. Like these are the boundaries that need to set. And also not just setting them, but actually like abiding them, like right, like actually sticking to them. And if they cross those boundaries that you make clear, because sometimes I feel like sometimes like we'll create these boundaries in our mind, like, okay, I'm not gonna stay there after 10, but we never verbalize it, we never told the other person, like it's not gonna stick. You know what I mean? Because once it hits 10 o'clock and then they're telling you, oh, the movie is this, you never told them that this was the boundary that you're gonna set, like stuff gonna happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to change the pattern, you have to be real, you have to communicate. Like I feel like a lot of times people fail to communicate when they're like trying to walk a certain path. Like if that's your partner, if that's your like, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case is, like you have to tell them like this is what I'm doing new, Tyra's like, yes, vocalize.
And you can't be sending mixed messages that you're gonna be a joke at that point. Like I remember in the past, I would be like, okay, I'm not having sex anymore, and then I'm still preparing. Like me and Sam had this conversation. I'm still preparing to have sex, y'all. Like I'm telling him I'm not, but yeah, I just got to wax, like pretty nice pants, nice, bra, ready to go. But yeah, I'm saying I'm not gonna have sex. So what am I preparing for? Like for the just in case? So you got to be like really, you got to stand on your word, and that's only going to happen if you continue to seek God's face on it. Because if not, flesh, we're weak. And that's just what it is.
And it's like on our own strength, you can't do it. You know what I mean? Like on your own strength, like even though we might think we're above all the influence, above the temptation, like we're not, like you're not, you know what I mean? Like, and so on our own, we can't do it. We have to literally seek God. We literally have to like lean on God. And listen, if 2 weeks down the line, like buddy thought you were playing, you got to be like, well, then we just can't, you know what I mean? And it might be hard. Maybe y'all been dating for a long time. Like it's either you gonna pick, okay, I'm gonna, stick this out with God because I believe God has bigger for me, better for me, and realize that person's probably, like Monica said, that person probably wasn't meant to be. Like if he can't or she can't honor with the commitment that you're making to God, then would they really honor you at all? Like, you know what I mean? Kiana says you have to ask yourself about your limits. Who cannot underestimate cannot underestimate temptation, and there is no just in case. Preparing for just in case, we just fooling ourselves, sending mixed signals. Nobody gonna take you serious. Tyra says, curfew me, please. Listen, we have to be real about it. All right, so that question, and how do you explain this to your partner? So just be real, to be honest. And earlier than later, like sooner than later, like literally, like once you're on that, like they need to know. All right, next question. How should the talk go with your partner to discuss horniness?
If y'all try not to have sex, why y'all talk about being horny? Because that's just gonna lead down a rabbit hole. Like, I'm being real. Like, that's not a conversation I'm gonna have without trying to back it up. Like,
but I get the question though, because let's say they're doing something, or like you're getting turned on or something like that, and it's just like, oh, that's making me feel some type of way. But it's just like how do you maneuver without saying that so they won't do it again if you don't talk about it?
I would say like the two people in a relationship have to be able to support each other, because sometimes one person's temptation is, you know, a lot different than the other person's temptation. Like maybe you can like stay up and watch a movie without even thinking about sex. Maybe that person like, nah, it's been on my mind this whole time. So you guys have to be able to support each other and be willing to meet each other, you know, on even ground, so that when that horniness does come, you guys, those boundaries are still there. And even if your boundaries are different, you're willing to meet your partner where their boundaries are, so that, you know, you guys can, you know, abstain together.
Right. Understanding the purpose of the conversation. The purpose of the conversation is not to act on it. It's to not even just avoid it, but just what to do with it. So you have to have those conversations. I get what Love is saying, though. Why talk about it if you're not trying to have sex? But if I don't talk about it, we probably don't end up having sex, because you probably don't realize something that you're doing that's turning me on, and I'm trying to fight it on my own because I haven't told you. So you got to kind of have those conversations.
So y'all gonna have that conversation when y'all next to each other?
No.
And that's the next thing. You cannot connect with each other.
But also that person could fall into like sin outside of the relationship because that conversation isn't had also, you know.
True. Like that's true. Like masturbation, like, or you know, like they just figuring things out for themselves, right? Instead of like just talking about it, or like turn to porn or turn to other people, because it's like, well, dang, like we ain't having it, but I'm feeling type of way. We ain't talking about this. Like, what am I supposed to do with this feeling? So I feel like, you know, like when they have like a signal where it's just like, all right, this the timeout, like timeout signal. Like, I feel like if we're getting serious in that sense, where it's just like, all right, we're getting serious, like we're taking this serious, we're not having sex or whatever the case is, it's just like, all right, if I feel some type of way, you feel some type of way, like this our little timeout, like our little timeout, so that means we just flee.
Call it,
right?
Call it early night. We gotta call it out in the morning.
Like skedaddle, like we just gotta okay.
Just go.
It's okay not to finish the movie sometimes.
Sometimes you can't be watching everything either.
Right.
Lafayette.
Be quiet.
I ain't there yet, so that's how I'm just taking it in. I ain't saying no. I'm just taking it in.
No, but I feel Lafayette, because that's how it was too. I'm like, okay, well, if we're not trying to get our minds there to think about that, why are we gonna talk about that? But I feel like there's a way to talk about it using wisdom. And I feel like maybe like if we're gonna have to talk about it, I feel like we should start with prayer, so that way our mind, like, you know, our focus, you know, God's at the forefront, and so we're talking about, okay, well, okay, yes, I do feel some type of way when this is done. Okay, so I would appreciate if this isn't done, because if it's still being done, then it might lead to, you know, we might do some things, or, you know, my mind might go there. You know what I mean? So I feel like just being like an adult.
This is a conversation you have over lunch, not or something, like y'all not having this conversation. Because my thing is, if we can't do nothing, because eventually when you're into somebody, everything to some extent is gonna turn you on in a way. So can y'all might as well just be friends. In my opinion, like y'all need to just be friends until you're ready to get married. That way we like eventually you're gonna get to that point where everything they do turns you on. Like just about. Why y'all not be friends?
So Lafayette, so then if you feel some type of way, or you really feel some type of way, then it just, I'm gonna just keep this to myself. I'm not gonna say it. She keep doing this thing. It really got me feel some type of way, but I'm not gonna say, like, what are you gonna do? Like, what do you do?
You're gonna keep doing it.
You control yourself and you don't do nothing back.
See, the whole purpose of dating is to truly get to know your partner because the ultimate goal is marriage. So in this case, I want to know what turned my husband on. I want to know his triggers. I want to know, all those things. So I think it's important that we have these conversations, but also I think in those relationships, like I want to have it where it's like we have like devotionals together. It might sound quirky, whatever, but that's cute. I want that. I want it where we do some Bible study talks together. So maybe you strategically do a Bible study talk on this topic so that way we on the same page. And we can also subliminally have this conversation where it just ultimately comes out to, let's be blunt about it. Like, listen, this is what I'm
I
feeling.
can get with that version, but that
Okay.
I can get with that. I get that.
Okay, so just like that. So how should the talk go? Let's do a devotion. Let's find a devotion.
We need a Bible study or something. Bring my
Right.
Bible.
And
There we go.
okay, cool. That's giving me something. So that's okay. Monica, she answered the question. I like that. So subliminally, hey Lexus, let's just say I love that strategy. Right. Okay, you onto something. Let's do a Bible study, right? So Bible,
With God in the middle. He's right there in the middle.
right. And we're gonna talk about it, okay, with God at the forefront, and we're gonna be so reminded, and we're gonna bring some action plan together, right? We're gonna come with a solution. And there we go. I love it.
Yeah. Done.
Lafayette said, yeah, good.
That's it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Song of Sol. Oh, no. We can't.
No. That's for the married people. Y'all really finna be in here.
No. That's Song of Solomon. That's Song of Solomon. Woo. Jasmine said, in public places. All right, we got to go to Panera with it. We got to take our Bible study to Panera because.
Or Zoom. You got Zoom now?
Oh, yeah.
No, you might not want to get on Zoom. People might.
This got to be in person.
No.
Okay, wait. Okay, in person, but in public place because
not in private.
Right.
But how you gonna have this conversation in public?
What you mean? How?
Okay, so you're gonna be whispering across the table? So we're just gonna, hey, I'm horny.
It ain't gotta come out like that. Like, remember that time the other night when you did blah blah blah? Like, we can't do that no more. Like, I'm really trying here, and let's have this Bible study, and we can talk this out, like Monica said, and yeah.
Oh my God!
You gotta be loud with it, Monica.
I won't be loud, but it's like I want to be specific, and I don't want nobody to listen.
Y'all sit next to each other during the Bible study.
Okay. Oh no!
Y'all have to talk loud.
No.
Lexus, I want to be listening across the rest.
Lexus be like, shh. Hold on. What they said?
Yeah, they hear that one word now. All of a sudden,
Yo, me too. I'll be like, wait. I'm like, they talk about sex.
Right.
The park. I think the park is a nice place.
The park.
It'd be hot outside, Monica.
So FaceTime, you're not even in the same vicinity. I like that. Who said FaceTime? Lexus.
FaceTime. Yeah, I am tearing up right now. She said judging and everything. Oh, okay. We got somebody to join the conversation, y'all. We got a friend on as well. Let's put her in.
Hey.
Hi,
Kiana.
friends. How are you?
Good. All right, Kiana, what you think?
Okay, what was the last question? Because I kind of had to be off of the live.
We're talking about how should the talk go with your partner, discuss horniness, and we were talking about we came to a conclusion that we should have a Bible study and subliminally, put that in there. Like, okay, this got me feeling some type of way. We can't do that. You can't do that because we might end up doing stuff. And so now we're discussing where should this Bible study be had. Lexi said FaceTime. Jasmine said public place.
I definitely think FaceTime is a good option because, you're face to face, but you're not face to face. But also any public place that like a restaurant or
See?
anything else that can, nothing is going down because there are lots of people around. This is a public
The
space.
church.
So, yes,
church.
honestly, go in the cafe area at the church.
Listen,
Stay after Wednesday night service.
You can't do nothing in the
Go-
church. I mean,
No,
you think that, but some.
yes, I definitely think, and kind of just what Tyra was talking about, how that's one thing that's cut and dry. So even if you're like, I feel like, do you even need to? Well, I guess you do need to get to the conversation of like to talk about horniness, but I feel like if once y'all set up the ground and there's no negotiating being happening, once y'all pass the point where both of y'all know, okay, this is what I don't want, this is what I don't want, this is what we're not going to do, here are boundaries. I don't feel like it needs to continue to be a conversation. You know what I mean? Like Lafayette said, but at the same time, it does need to be an initial conversation to, like, basically no, like there's no questioning anything. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows, period, point blank, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. But I don't know, once you get to that place where we're not negotiating, I don't think it needs to be a recurring conversation. Like, I feel like it's a good conversation to have initially, but as far as over and over and over again, we're having this conversation, no, because that means somebody's still trying to, bargain. Like me personally, if I pray about something, I might, and I'm doing better, a lot better, but I might be like, okay, God, but what if, this worked like this? Like, what if it end up happening like this? Can I still, like, is it still going to happen like this? And I feel like it could be the same thing with that conversation. You don't want to keep talking about it because then those limits may get pushed a little bit and pushed a little bit and pushed a little bit more. And then now y'all talking about it so much that y'all not even doing what you initially like set in place. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. And I feel like, okay, I feel like I'm not like this, but I feel like in the past, like sometimes I feel like when people when they tell you like, oh yeah, that turns me on, I feel like it does something in us where it's just like, oh, I could do that, like
Right.
Right.
And then it's like, do you feel like you got a little power where it's just like, well, let me do that again, because
That's what I was trying to say.
Yes, I totally got you.
That thigh?
What'd you say, Monica?
I said that thigh.
No, so I like, right. So like, don't be taking what people be saying and using that to like make them fall. Like, don't do that.
Right.
Y'all wasn't on the same page to begin with. If y'all do,
I agree.
that's the answer.
Yes.
That's true.
I agree.
Yes.
Because we're going to talk about it. So I agree. We got to be on the same page.
Right, and we gotta be like, all right. We're not.
Like, are you sure you said this? Like, are you sure it wasn't like this? I feel like that's what'll start happening. If y'all not really on the same page. Like, did you really say, I had to leave at 10, or was it like 10:05? Because within that 5 minutes, I can still, no, that's not what we're doing.
Right.
Right, or it's like, oh, these pants? I thought you said the other color. Like,
yes.
Like, but those were purple. Like,
huh? I didn't think they was that tight. Do you really think they're that tight? I mean, I thought I had a little bit of room in these.
Right. I thought it was the color, not the pant height. Like, y'all know. Like, don't y'all know.
Right.
All right. Tyra says, dang, I missed the question. Tyra, we're still on that same question. We're still talking about how should we approach it, and what should we do. But we set the Bible study in a public place, and not talk about all the time, but have the conversation. Let's be cutthroat. Let's say we gotta say, and then let's follow through. All right, so okay, so this next. Okay, we got some questions, and we're almost at an hour. But all right, so the next, actually, I'll wait for this one. I'll do a giveaway, and like 2 more questions, I'll do the giveaway. All right, so this question: Should married couples not masturbate if it's them just thinking about each other?
I ain't married. I don't know.
Don't do it. I mean, if you married, then again, I don't know because if my man out of town,
You got to do what you got to do.
you know, I might just, baby, I miss you. So, but for the most part, if they right there with me, I mean, what am I masturbating for? Think about them when they right there and I could get it right there. I don't know. I just kind of feel like that question it depends. But I would say no. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
would say,
Sarah said no. Who said this?
It was probably Tyra. Let me tell you.
I'm done. No.
But it's not like they're watching porn or anything. It's them
Thinking about
to their spouse. It's not like, is that wrong?
But what if it leads to something else?
Right.
Having sex with your spouse?
That's where I was going with that. Because I feel like if your partner is away for a time, right, and you feel the need to masturbate because they're not there, they're not present. I feel like if they're away, that's a time for you to kind of maybe learn, or not learn, but kind of practice self-control, because our thoughts is like the things that goes on in our minds is very important. So if that person is gone for maybe an extended period of time, and you masturbate because they're not there, eventually that masturbation ain't gonna be enough because you already tasted what sex, you already tasted sex. So once that's not enough and they're not there, what happens with the thoughts that's been going through your mind and the temptations that might come across your way? So I feel like if your partner's not there for a certain time, concentrate yourself, do what you gotta do, practice that self-control. And when your partner gets back, then it's gonna be great because you guys have abstained for a while, and when you get back to it, then fireworks.
Fireworks.
I think, yes, I think it's the same danger. Like, I totally agree with what he said, and I think it's the same danger as why they say that's why we should shy away from it in singleness, because you get to this place where you I feel like you learn to please yourself, and there's now a standard that your spouse may not meet, or your spouse may not even, you know what I mean? They didn't sign up for that. They didn't sign up to compete with anybody, even if it's yourself. I think it's the same thing in marriage as well. It's kind of dangerous because, okay, now that they're away, now when they get back home, and we actually do get that time that we've been waiting for, it's like, okay, well, I already been, you know what I mean? I've already developed this, like, I don't know, this expectation of what I want and what I can do for myself. So I feel like it won't be as enjoyable as it would as if you disciplined your flesh to, you know what I mean? And also that could be a time for you to get close to God. Like, if the person is away in the normal times where y'all would be in each other's presence, or y'all would be spending time, intimate time or whatever, you can take that time to be like you're single, because they say single, dating, marriage, and then you do it all over again. Because at some points you still need to know that you're an individual when it comes to your relationship with God. Like, you're not saving your spouse, and your spouse is not saving you, and y'all not gonna go to heaven together, and y'all not gonna stand before God together when it's judgment, or when that day comes. Yes, you're gonna do that at the altar, but at the same time you still have to know that you are an individual and you're at one with Christ. So that could be a great time for you to go back to what you did in your single season. Date God. Like, go out to eat and you just sit in the presence of God, or whatever. Don't necessarily spend it like, okay, I gotta masturbate because now I'm missing out on all this sex that I could be having with my spouse. No, you still have that intimacy, and you still have you're still blessed enough to have that time with God. So spend that time with God while your spouse is away.
So y'all mean to tell me if y'all man is in the military and he gone for 6 months, y'all not gonna maybe take a few pictures for him to take with him, or like, I'm confused. Because this is you, like, I'm just saying, like,
I don't know. I'm not married
don't
yet, so
agree.
I'm not gonna say what I'm not gonna do, but I just say that it may be dangerous in some ways.
For him
But I ain't
looking at his
married, so I don't know.
I think it goes back to the conversation we just had about horniness too, like having that conversation with your husband or your spouse or your wife, whatever. Because I know about a relationship where they were apart for some time. They lived in two separate places, right? But they didn't have the conversation of what was really happening and how their true feelings and what was really going on. And because of that, one stepped out and the other was masturbating. So it felt like they kind of fell apart without even realizing it. And when they would come together, it was like nothing. But when they were apart, they weren't, they were not physically together, and they were also not spiritually connected, mentally connected, anything in that sort either. So I think, it sounds good to say, get into God's presence. Like, we definitely should do that. But realistically as well, have those conversations with your husband. Like, man, you've been gone for a year. And honestly, I've been struggling, and also have those true conversations with God. It's not just like, God, let me sit down and talk to you about my day. Let me talk to you about these feelings that I'm having too. You know what I mean? My husband's gone, and I don't feel like I'm being pleased. I don't feel like I'm getting what I normally get. So how can I withstand? What can I do to build that self-control? And I think, like what Wes was saying, that's a great conversation to just sit in God's presence and have that conversation with him, because he's going to give you those tangible ways. And he'll honestly start to take your mind off of it and put your mind on other places where you really could be focusing your time and energy.
I agree. What Kiana, what you're saying is like, that makes sense, and what Wes said, it makes sense as well. And Jasmine said, I really like that. Just that perspective where it's just like, because it's true, like, we're taught or we're told to like practice self-control, and just because we get married doesn't mean that we're not exempt from having self-control. You know what I mean? And so if we've been practicing self-control, we've been practicing when we were single, we're still practicing as we're married. Like, I feel like that's vital. And so even if y'all are apart, self-control is still being practiced. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to be like, okay, I'm gone for 2 weeks and you never got your self-control down pat, and now I don't know what you're doing or who you in bed with. You know what I mean? Because you didn't have your self-control down pat. Like, you don't know what to do with yourself because your wife isn't there. Like, I don't want.
But what happened to the marriage bed being undefiled? Like, y'all don't consider that a part of that? Like,
yeah. Like, look. Tyra said, now taking photos may happen, not gonna cap. But then again, ask when I'm married. Listen, I ain't married right now. I can't say, but I'm just saying, like, I agree with Tyra where, yes, you're right, Lafayette. Like, the marriage bed is undefiled. Like, I mean, you marry. I feel like it's just, I think, just like Tyra says, kind of like a slippery slope when we're talking about like the masturbation part. And I know, like, someone mentioned before to me about that, like, it's like you're kind of entertaining your thoughts when it comes to masturbation, even if it's you're thinking about each other, it's still a thought, and then that can lead to lust. And I wouldn't want that to grow where it gets so big that now you're committing adultery, or you're looking at someone else in a certain way because your wife or your husband isn't there. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I think that's where we're getting at.
okay.
So
It's like playing with fire.
It's playing with fire, right? Yeah. Right. Which I like, y'all talking about that has opened up my mind, because I was kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I guess if they want to do that, but what y'all are saying is making sense. Like, that's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Jasmine said there's a spoken word called "Touchy Subject" by Ezekiel that kind of gave me some clarity. Just a recommendation. I mean, if you want to, we could put it on right now. We could listen to that. Let me see how long. Let me see. I'm gonna find like the short version.
How are you? When was the last time you masturbated? How are you? When was the last time you masturbated? I'm sorry, was that forward? Well, let me rewind. Would you rather I ignore what causes you to replay what you thought you had stopped with this pause that cease? So, if sin is recorded in your heart, how can you not go back to something that you miss? Teach told me I was never any good at math. But 11 years old plus church bathroom should have never stimulating myself for the first time, and that first time turned into any time I had a free hand. This 5-finger discount had me backing myself with my integrity, but my heart was still, so I'm guessing this felony armed robbery never convicted me. I was made in the image of God. Often played the role of a foolish squirrel where I would abandon the acorn tree of life and without intervention would have chased a single nut down to hell. But I thought marriage would cure me, but instead it caused clarity to hatch from my eyelids just so I know how sure of a sight I was to see. Now it makes sense why jewelers specialize in boxing rings, yet if things are made circular. I know why now. Once you get that ring, real gold round. Loneliness and lack of self-control. Satan will always try to make you skip Thanksgiving dinner for a 50-cent bag of hot Cheetos. Yeah, I call out the ladies, but their ringtones are usually on the now. Shh, maybe y'all can hear me better once you put your vibrators on silent. Your body is...
All right. Leffy made a good point. I don't want to play too much for copyright, but that was the touchy subject by Ezekiel that Jasmine recommended talking about that. So if you wanted more clarity, definitely I could tell that it was getting good with that spoken word. So we're gonna cut that. Yeah. All right. Good. Thank you, Lafayette. All right. So next question. So I guess we're done with that one. Or did anybody have anything else to say or based off what they've heard and wanted to discuss?
Y'all opened my mind. I'll say that.
That's good. That's good. All right. And likewise too, my mind as well has been open. So thank you. Definitely thank you for that talk. That was a good question. So then this question next says, how do you establish boundaries in your relationship touch curfew? I know we've talked about this like this before, like when it comes to boundaries and things like that. So I guess like practically, what would that look like? I feel like people still have question, even though they watch the live, listen to the podcast. It's like, all right, practically, how can this happen? And so I guess if you guys have any experiences with that, like, what are your experiences? What would you practically say or do?
With setting boundaries, I think it should start with, let's say, for instance, it's curfew. The conversation should go something, or could go something like this. Hey, I don't think we should be hanging out past 10. And he or she could be like, oh, well, why so early? Or why, why? What's the point? Stuff like that. If y'all can't come to agreement, that's a sign right there. So, I think having an open conversation to where you can ask each other questions will either help you establish those boundaries or it'll help you realize that that's not somebody you probably need to be going long term with. So I kind of answered two questions, but yeah, I think it's definitely just a conversation, not anything where you just making hard rules. Like, y'all should discuss it, and you'll get to know a lot about a person talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You made a good point. I feel like, and I think someone mentioned it earlier, where you may be able to do certain things that the other person may not. And if we have a goal, and that's to, respect and honor each other and like put God first and stay pure, like that conversation should be had. And if there's something like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just like, okay, I'm setting, or I feel as though I have to leave at 10 because anything past that, I mean, I might be blind, you know what I mean? Like, and if that person's just like, I mean, I'm good till like 2 a.m, if they can't, like you said, like they can't respect that, we're just like, all right, like, I honor you. So if you're saying that, then I have to compromise, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's certain things that we would have to compromise because what may be tempting to you isn't tempting to me, but because it's tempting to you, like, all right, let's come, like, let's agree so that way we don't fall, and I'm still honoring you and your boundaries, and my boundaries are still being honored as well. You know what I mean? And I feel like you have to leave room for that. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be willing to, like, okay, let's come together, because it's not just the you, it's both of y'all, you know? And sometimes I feel like people are like, okay, well, I can't do this, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna do that. And it's just like, well, dang, well, guess this is your relationship, like, you know?
And I love
Yeah.
that, Sam. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if
Go
you
ahead.
can-
No, go ahead.
I love that because you talked about how it has to be both of you guys, and you never want to be the reason your partner falls, because ultimately that's both of your relationship. And I feel like anyone watching this, anybody who's on here right now, I don't know if I'm the only one, or have heard of this, or the only one who have heard of this before, but like, I feel like anytime you cross certain boundaries, it causes tension in any relationship. And it kind of does more damage to it than good. So like, if your partner falls, if you're the reason your partner falls, then both of y'all are falling. Both of you guys are not having a relationship that's to its fullest potential, because you've now crossed certain boundaries that have, you know what I mean, damaged the relationship. So I totally agree with that. And I would also say I haven't personally tried this, but people always say about goals to write them down, because when you actually write them down, or anything you write down really, like if you're studying, if you're writing it down, you kind of commit it to memory better. And also, you know, if you're writing your goals and you write them down, it's like, okay, this is there, this is right in this book, I know I need to tend to this. I think it's also smart to write your boundaries down somewhere where both of you guys have access to it. And even if y'all have to sign off on it, like me personally, like I know with sin in general, like I know who owns the fence. And what I mean by that is, when you straddle the fence, when you're trying to get too close to the fence without sinning, like we all know who owns the fence. Satan owns the fence. God doesn't have a fence that's gonna almost burn you. He's not gonna be the one that has that middle ground. So for me, everything for me is extreme. Like I have to govern myself in extreme manners, and most people would be like, "Sis, that's not even necessary." Like, you know what I mean? You'll be fine. You're not sinning. But for me, I'm like, no, I need to make sure that I am not crossing any things. So as far as writing things down, for me, that's like extreme. Even if we have to have a contract and we both sign off on it, and I have to open it and be like, okay, you remember on this day, November blank blank blank, on this day we both signed and said that we're not doing this. Because when you don't make stuff concrete and you don't put it, like sometimes if you don't put it in writing, it's very easy to bend on it. And if you guys are both not really in a place where you're both strong in your faith, and like I said earlier, do not underestimate temptation. You can be real safe and have been on your rock with Christ for a long time. And if something comes up, you know what I mean? Especially if it's something we desire. We all desire intimacy, period, point blank. That's why we all want to have, why we all want to get married, and why we want to have successful, godly marriages. So we're lured away by our own desires. So if that's something you desire, you need to make sure it's in check. And if you don't have it in check, it needs to be somewhere where it cannot be broken or it cannot be infringed upon. Like, we're not trying to go to the fence or straddle the fence and be on the other side of the fence. We're trying to be way over here.
Better safe than sorry, right?
What'd you say?
Right.
I said better safe than sorry. But I think also it, like piggybacking off what Kiana said, I feel like it's really about like knowing yourselves, right? Establishing those boundaries. You know you know yourself. You know your temptations, and you know like what could like cause you to kind of maybe stray away from that or deviate from that path. And each of you just like have to support each other, whatever those boundaries, whatever those things might be for each other. But I think also sometimes you learn some things about yourself along the way. So if you do create a contract, maybe some things weren't on the initial contract, but you came to learn, you know, like we were talking about, maybe it's a certain type of jeans, or maybe it's whatever it may be. You learn like those things along your relationship, and maybe you have to come back to that conversation and, you know, add something in and be like, hey, this is something that kind of caused me to maybe like have a certain thought or like want to deviate or tempt me. So then got to come back to it and reestablish those boundaries and maybe add some things in to make sure that you guys are still on the same page.
I agree with that, Wes, for sure. I was just writing, when it comes down to boundaries, before you can try to create any type of relational boundary, you have to solidify your personal boundaries. And I think a lot of people miss that step. And because of that, they never really learn the full definition of discipline. And in order to really have boundaries and abide by those boundaries, you have to know how to be disciplined. And that takes practice. So, if I tell you that, hey, I don't drink more than a glass of wine, I have my own personal reasons for that because I know myself, and my partner has to respect and honor that. I don't care if we're at the club, I don't care where we go. You have to honor that I'm not going to have more than that. So that's just one example, but I think it just kind of goes and it tailors to any circumstance or any situation or any boundary that is set. But before you can do relational boundaries, you have to set boundaries within yourself. And that's why singleness is so important before you jump into relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys made excellent points. I like Kiana with that whole contract. I'm like, intentionality for real. Like, I never thought about that. That's good. Like, listen, we on December 3rd. You forgot.
Did you forget?
Huh?
I said, did you forget?
And then what Wes said about like coming back together, and it's just like, listen, if there's things that I didn't realize in the beginning that I just can't do, or that is gonna whatever, then we have to like reassess and add things if there needs to be things added on there, and not be afraid to add things. Like we have to be realistic with the goal, and if there's certain things that's gonna help to secure us achieving that goal, then we have to reassess and add the things that we need to add to get there. And then excellent what Monica was saying about even having like your boundaries and abiding by those, you know what I mean, and being strict with those, because these are my boundaries. So that way, like, I feel like sometimes like people get in relationships, like godly relationships, and they never had a sense of boundaries. Like they didn't have boundaries for themselves. So it's kind of like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, boundaries, like what? And it's just like, have that for yourself, like have that respect for yourself, where you understand and what your personal boundaries are before a relationship. Like that's really good. Tyra says, okay, I think every couple is different. In this social media, a lot of single women try to mimic what other Christian couples are doing, and you have to see God for what boundaries you and your mate need to have. That is bueno, like for real, because like that's a really good point. Because I know for myself, like I had this boundary, or I had this non-negotiable, like I made this non-negotiable like I think 2 years ago, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna kiss until like my wedding or whatever, and I was saying all this stuff, and like recently this year, like that kind of got brought up, and I changed that from a non-negotiable to negotiable, because like that me setting that like kind of stemmed from me just wanting to like be perfect and look perfect. Like it never was a conviction, you know what I mean? Like it was never really God. It was just more so like, right, I would hear like Heather and Lindsay, like, you hear these people talk about it, like, oh, they didn't kiss, like, oh, let me do that too, like, and it just makes you, I don't know, to me, it just made me seem like it would make me look more holier and stuff like that. And I guess, I don't know, like it's not wrong, but like the intention behind it was wrong. So like that's why it turned from a non-negotiable to a negotiable, because it was just like that wasn't a conviction for like God didn't tell me that for, I just said that for myself to like, I don't know, make myself look perfect or something. But yeah, so that's a good point. And I want for like when I get in a relationship for it to be all right, we came together and we see God about our relationship, and these are our goals for this relationship. And you don't have to mimic other couples. Like you can see God for your own like relationship. And that's what I want. That's a goal of mine. Jasmine says facts.
I did that firsthand. It's not like I did. It's beautiful to have like a godly couple to model after and to see what they were able to achieve in their relationship. But I made that mistake of like wow, this is who we're modeling after, and this is how we need to do it. Like we need to do the same thing. And I even like became close with them, like after I met them on social media and was like following their journey on social media. And I met them and became personal friends with them, and beautiful people. But I realized that you cannot model anyone else's. Like I don't care how, like, okay, we both thank God trying to have God relationships. Okay, that's great. And there is a standard that God has in the Bible or whatever for all of us to follow. But you cannot follow the same thing from one couple to the next, because it's not going to be the same. Just like y'all have been talking about your personal convictions. Like, for me, like how Sam was saying, that someone told me that, like, oh, we're not kids until we get married. And I'm like, bro, it's just like it's kiss. Like I don't want to do anything else, but it's just kissing. But at the same time, if you kiss a person, you may be feeling like something different. You know what I mean? For other people, that may not do anything to them. They may just be like, "Oh, we just kissed." But like other people, it may send shock waves. So you just like you can't think about what someone else is doing, because y'all are both gonna have individual temptations or individual feelings or whatever, or individual boundaries that you need, and then your relationship together is going to have individual boundaries other than other couples. So I feel you on that.
Tyra said kissing not a trigger for me, but it may be for other people, and that's cool too. You're right. And I feel like, and like you said, like these other like couples, they can hold you accountable, you know what I mean? And it's definitely like they can be inspiring as well. We're just like, okay, like there are relationships like this. But I feel like when it comes to a model and who we're modeling after, it should always be Christ. You know what I mean? And that's what God has shown me for me, because that's what I was doing. Like unintentionally, I was just modeling my future relationship based off what I was seeing. And I was just like, okay, well, they ain't kiss, so I'm not gonna kiss till marriage too, because they seem like they're happy. So you know what? Let me just go all out, whatever. And that wasn't real. That wasn't what God gave me for my future relationship, So I just had to like, okay, Samantha, you're doing that thing again where you're trying to be perfect and trying to be holier than thou, and you need to, that's not what God told you. Like stick with your convictions. So yeah, that's good. Tyra said, and hand holding. Listen, and you know what too? Talking about like boundaries in relationships, because I think about like people's love languages, right? Because like, what if their love language is physical touch, but you're over here like, we can hug, we can kiss, we can't do this, we can't do that. Like, well, dang, like, how they gonna feel love if their love language is physical touch? Like, dang, I can't even hold your hand. Like, how do y'all feel about that? Lexa said we could just stare at each other. I haven't heard anything from the guys lately. Or no, I heard from Wes Lafayette.
How do I feel about hand holding? Kind of what Tyra said. Just you know what you can handle. And if hand holding is gonna send you over the edge, then don't do it. If staring at somebody is gonna send you, whatever you think will send you over the edge, then stay away from it. Like being real, like if that is your goal, if you really are seeking to honor God in your relationship, anything that's gonna possibly be a trigger for you to cause you to go down the wrong path, then abstain from it. And I think they're saying there's someone out there for everybody. Really, there is. Like there will be somebody, there will be more people than you probably think that will be absolutely okay with that. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, just be real with yourself. Like don't. And I think too, like sometimes if we do look at other people's relationships, they might not have convictions that you may have, and if you go after their relationship without your own convictions that that you have, like that could be problematic as well, because maybe God is like, nah, like I don't want you to whatever, but then this couple's doing it, so shoot, let me forget my conviction. That can be problematic. So that's why it's just like it can be tricky looking after other people. They can inspire you, but to model like cutthroat their relationship is problematic to me. So I hopefully that answered the question, because we were talking about it. Hopefully that answered the question. All right. Anybody had anything else to say about that, or are we good with that one? Are we good? Okay. All right. So the next giveaway, actually let me write the number. So literally, you just gotta hold on. Let me do this first, actually. All right, so I wrote down a number. And so the first person to guess the number right wins. Very easy. Made it very, very simple and very easy this time.
Just like any number, not even like between a certain like range.
Oh, you're right. All right. One through 10. 1 through 10. You good. Good job. Thank you.
See, 33.
1 through 10, y'all. I'm so sorry. 1 through 10. 1 through 10. All right. When the first person I see, Jasmine says comparison can be dangerous. Y'all can guess more than once. I see 3373. No.
Can we guess?
I guess. Ooh, and y'all is so close that it's just like, whoa. But y'all not there. Oh, I'm done. It's Monica. Monica got it. Oh, look at Triple G.
Go ahead, Monica.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know we could participate.
No, she went and did it. Wow. Okay, yes, it was 8. Wow. Okay. I guess Monica won. So it's a shirt. So I'll hit you up and I'll send you. So that was a shirt. Wow. Okay.
I won't do it again, y'all. That was it.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, in like 30 no, in like 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, I'll do another one. Because Monica I'll do another one in like 20 minutes. Y'all just remind me in 20 minutes. I'll do another one and I'll make it easy again. All right. I think after Monica had put it Triple G on YouTube.
Give it the Triple G.
All right, Monica's giving the Triple G. All right, Triple G. Good job, you got it. So just reach out to me. On like IG, if you can get me on IG. It's Being Sam TV, and send me your size and your color preference. So it's red or black. So this is what the red looks like, and then this is like with the black. And then like send me your size and your mailing address and you'll get your shirt. She said, thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, let's get down. All right. So next question. It says, if you aren't convicted of something, should you still have to stop doing it if you feel no conviction?
It depends, like, because if it's explicit in the word and it says not to do it,
right,
then you got to stop doing it, whether you feel conviction about it or not. Like, there are plenty of things in the word that I don't agree with, and it's just like, you know what? If this is the faith that I decide to live by, I'm gonna have to get over it, and I'm gonna have to ask the Holy Spirit for help in that area. But if it's something like kissing in a relationship, if you don't feel guilty about that, then personally, and I could be wrong, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see an issue with that. Like, some things are gray in the word, and if the Holy Spirit didn't convict you and you actually asked him for guidance in that area and he told you it was all right, then who am I to tell you that it's wrong?
Right.
What, you have something?
Oh, no, I wasn't saying.
Lafayette, what you said makes sense. Like if it's right, like if it's in the Bible, like it don't matter how you feel about it, like that's just it is what it is. But when it comes to, and I feel like what a lot of people do is, because certain things are like, it's gray, it doesn't explicitly say this in the Bible, they don't ask God about it, they just do it, but like you have to ask God, like, okay, God, what is, it doesn't say in, black and white, this is what to do. So what do I do? Like, if you didn't see God about it, or even get closer into God. I feel like the closer I got to God, the more like certain things just, you know, I had distaste for, or I felt convicted about, or you know what I mean. So like I feel like as you continue to grow your relationship with God, like there will be certain things that you'll notice that you didn't care about before that you care about, or you feel convicted about now that you didn't never feel convicted about before. So if you aren't convicted of something, should you still have to stop doing it? I guess like what Lafayette said is like specifically like in what sense? Like, but I guess like I guess we can all come together and say like if it's in the Bible, then it doesn't really matter what you feel about it. But if it's something that's like a gray area, then you know.
Now,
Go ahead.
are we talking about within the framework of a relationship?
That's true.
Or
I guess
just like,
let's talk in the framework of a relationship, because it is kind of like broad in that sense. So let's talk in relationship. I think that's probably what I'm sure that's probably what they're referring to.
Because I don't remember at all. I'm not gonna pretend like I remember, but I think there's a scripture that talks where Paul talks about like certain things, like certain convictions or certain things that someone might believe, and it's not necessarily right or wrong, but you kind of work with that person, and you might like, I think he was talking about like maybe like he was talking about eating meat,
yeah,
like that. And maybe the person whose soul you're trying to save might feel really strongly about that, and you kind of go along with that conviction for the sake of saving their soul, because it's like it's really nothing at the end of the day to kind of go along with it. It's not really one of those things that's like established as like good or bad, but you kind of just go with it for the sake of the relationship, or for the sake of maybe winning that person to over to God.
There's another scripture. It says, "Don't let your good be evil spoken of." I think I'm paraphrasing, but you know, if you're doing something and no, you may not be convicted by it, but you think that other people may feel a way about it, or you know, make up some scenario about it, just stay away from it. You know, like you're bringing reproach to your name and to the name of God in that way. So like, yeah, I'll just keep it at that. Like, if you think it'll bring a bad name to you or God, whether you feel a conviction, even if you don't feel a conviction about it, then just stay away from it, or at least don't do it in public where people can see you. You know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Monica.
I think it depends on what it is too, but for the most part, this question is not a yes or no answer, simply because some people become numb to conviction. So like certain things, you know, God's convicting you of, but because you're not spiritually mature yet, you probably don't even realize it, or you have realized it, but you just convince yourself that it's not an issue. So I think to say that if you aren't convicted of something, should you stop doing it? You have to really soul search and see what is God telling you, what is He speaking. You have to listen as well, because I feel like a lot of people become numb to conviction, and I think that's why a lot of people have sex outside of marriage, because I feel like we all kind of get convicted like we shouldn't be doing it, but we become numb to it. So
yeah, and yeah, that talks about it in the Bible as well, where it's like just like you do it, like God's kind of like gave you over to it, where it's just all right, you're doing it too much, where it's just like you're not gonna feel no conviction about it anymore, and you never want to get to that point. But that makes sense. And also too, what Lafayette was saying about like, you know, even certain convictions, like if you feel convicted about holding somebody's hand, like, and like Wes was saying, like, I mean, it doesn't say don't hold people's hands in the Bible, but if that's what you feel strongly convicted about, and I'm your friend, or I'm your, you know, significant other, whatever the case is, or you know, we're courting, then it's just like, I gotta respect that's your conviction, you know, even though I don't feel convicted about that, you know. So I guess, yeah, and what you said, definitely, for sure, like sometimes it's not a matter of God ain't knocking on your not to do it or to do it, it's just you ain't hearing God right now, or you're numb to conviction. So that's true as well. All right, this question says, how do you feel about sleepovers and living together unmarried? If they aren't having sex, does it still matter?
Okay. I have like an answer to the previous question, but it falls right into this.
Okay.
It falls right into this question. So me personally, I lived in an apartment with a girl and her boyfriend. And you know, he was always there, whatever. They spent the night or whatever. And you know, I was in like a courtship or whatever, and we were, you know, trying to have like a godly relationship. But he would also come over, and we could very well be having Bible study, but I closed my room door. You know what I mean? Just because my room opens up to the kitchen. So like we would be in there, you know, having Bible study or just sitting and chatting, you know what I mean? Not even close to each other. But kind of like Lafayette was saying, I think there's something in the Bible about it, or someone was explaining it to me, is presentation of evil.
Yeah.
And you may not be doing anything, but is it looking like something to someone else? And I very well could have tarnished my witness, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, my roommate, she go to church and she's so into God, but like her boyfriend come over and the room door closed. You know what I mean? So it's like, how is it looking like you? I feel like also as believers, we can't just look at like, okay, are we saved? But the Bible says go and make disciples. And I think a part of doing that is making sure other people don't fall, and being a witness to other people. And by being a witness to other people, you don't want to tarnish your witness by making them think like, well, you know, if she a Christian and she go to church and stuff, and she can have her boyfriend, you know, in the room with the door closed, even though we, you know what I mean, I've been reading the Bible. Still, to other people, how does that look? And it's the same with like the sleepovers and everything. You could be, you know, spend the night, get your spend the night back, and not be doing nothing. But it's still like, not only how does that look to the people around you, even if no one knows what you're doing or that you spend the night, how does it look to God? Like we sometimes we care about like, oh, does my mama know that I got my boyfriend over here, or does my family know, or whatever? But it's like, it don't even matter. Does God know? Like, does God know? Like, God is the one that sees you and everything you do. And you may not be doing anything wrong, but you also have to see the way he designed all of this to be. And if you're outside of that and he's seeing you and you're okay with him seeing you in that environment, then that's something that you need to evaluate, like your personal conviction of what level of okay you are with God seeing you doing what you're doing, if that makes sense. I'm bad at explaining stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have something to say? That's definitely very valid, and I see what you and Lafayette are talking about, where the scripture where it talks about like even you don't want anything to make even look like remotely like it's sin. And I have this thing where it's just like, you know, certain things that I don't have a problem doing, but I don't show that like publicly, in a sense. Not like I'm hiding anything or not being like truthful, but it's just like I know that what I may do in moderation, someone might see me do it and do it out of moderation because they see me do it. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to lead anybody astray, or I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea where, you know, like for example, like let's say like I have a glass of wine, or I have a drink or something, and then people see like, oh, well, Samantha drinks and she's a Christian, so let me drink it up or whatever. And it's just like, well, dang, I only had one, like, and you went and got 10, like that's totally different. But you know, sometimes like you can't explain what you're doing, so they'll see it and then they'll take it and run with it. And so even to that, like what you were talking about, I had someone who also like came to me and they said the same thing, where you know they had their significant other like sleeping over because of like circumstances, and they weren't doing anything, but the other roommate seen that and seen that it looked like acceptable, y'all are churchgoers or whatever, and then they were doing the same, thinking that they were doing something that they weren't. And it's like, you know, then they felt guilty because it's just like, man, like it looks like I'm doing something that I'm not doing, and now here they're doing this thing, and they felt like it was because of, you know, because of them. So you definitely want to be careful about that, especially like you said, like if it's going to taint the witness, like Wes was saying as well. So I say, listen, don't expect to play with fire, like putting fire in your lap and not expect to get burned, especially if you know, you're trying to live like righteously and trying to live holy and trying not to do things. I personally can't do that, because I just don't think I can do that.
Yeah, it's a no for me too.
It's a no.
Yeah, no. And that's a good perspective to come from that perspective because you don't hear that often. But I'm all about intentionality. So when you're intentional, the question behind it is why. So why are you staying the night? Or are you sleeping over? What's the purpose? And I think a lot of people do it out of comfortability. And because of that, it prolongs the next step, which is marriage. Because if everybody's comfortable, what we gonna get married for? I know for sex, whatever, you're not having sex, but at the same time, why are we staying the night? And when I was doing that, going with my little night bag, again, why? There was no purpose behind it. That time where I needed to be by myself in God's word, I was over there with him. So it's like, you got to really think about, being intentional across the board.
That's good too. Yeah. Agreed. What
I
is the
think
why? Go ahead.
I love that why. Like that is what I say for everything. If someone asks me something about anything, I'm like, well, what is your why? Like what's the reason you do it? And there's one thing that says, and this does not go with everybody's situation or relationship, but there's a saying that says if he can get the milk for free, why buy the cow? And I think a lot of us ladies, we desire to have these relationships and we desire to have these types of men, but we're also giving them husband privileges. At the end of the day, us sharing rent, you know what I mean? Even though it may be convenient, even though your name being on my lease may be convenient, that's a husband privilege. That's something that I'm supposed to be building, with my spouse. And I think once you've already lived out, basically married, like y'all paying house, y'all basically married, it's like when you actually get married, it honestly takes away that fire. And I think that's a lot why a lot of people say, well, getting married don't really fix nothing. Well, part of the reason, I'm not saying marriage doesn't fix everything. I'm not saying that, but part of the reason that I feel like some people feel that way is because they did it all before they even got married. Like they stepped into those lanes before they even got married, and that goes beyond like just having sex. It's great if you're not having sex, but you're still sharing rent. Y'all have split responsibilities. All of these things when you're playing house and you're living in that role of a husband or a wife, it takes away that spark and that fire and that the beauty of what God meant it to be within the space that it's meant to be in when you do it prior to, if that makes sense. Sex just kind of adds on to it, but all those other things that you're doing, responsibilities and stuff that are like husband and wife, like sex just adds to it. If you're having sex, that's adding fire to the flame, because it's like, well, once we get married, we just going right back home, and we might go on a nice little trip on a honeymoon, but we doing the same stuff we've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. It kind of takes that excitement away of like, oh, like we finally get to be together for real. It's kind of like, oh, same stuff, same stuff. But
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Right. Just me personally, I'm not messing with that, because that's just no. Mm-mm. All right. So the next question is saying, how do people with addictions truly get delivered for themselves?
In what sense?
I want to say like relationally, so probably like sex addictions, porn addictions.
So I can talk about a person I was addicted to. I was with them for almost 4 years, and I literally believed that I could not live without them, to the point where I would make up my mind that I wasn't going to do it anymore. A week later, right back with them. Same cycle again and again. We break up. A week later, I'm back with them because I really thought that I couldn't live without them. But for me, it took literally deleting everything concerning them out of my life. So whether it's a relationship, whether it's sexual addiction, substance abuse, anything, if you want to be delivered from something, you have to get rid of all fragments of it. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's been about 2 years since I've gotten away from that relationship. But even still, there are moments and opportunities where I can go back to that, and I know I can. I know that door would still be open for me, but it's a conscious decision not to do it. And I think it just comes with really making up your mind. Hey, I'm done with this. I'm getting rid of everything that resembles it. And even when those times come, I'm going to find another outlet other than that thing or that person. And that's what helped me in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. As cliche as it might sound sometimes, you have to admit that it's a problem. Like, if you can't admit it's a problem, then you're never going to be able to resolve that addiction. So I think first you have to admit that it's a problem, and not be afraid to seek help. Because if it's a true addiction, sometimes you can't figure it out on your own. You don't know like where to start to even like start to let go of that addiction. So I think like seeking out help, someone to hold you accountable so you don't go back to it, whatever that addiction may be. And I don't know, start on the path to kind of seek out whatever you need to do, whatever you need to let go. If it's a person or something, you know, whether it's porn or whatever it may be, figure out the steps, you know, with the help of God, to start taking the measures you need to take. But first, you have to admit it's a problem. If you can't admit to yourself that this is a problem that I need to resolve, then you really can't get anywhere.
For me, one of the things I struggled with was cursing. Like when I used to curse like a sailor, because it started in middle school, and it was a thing that started because I felt like I needed to fit in. You know, and I needed to sound cool or whatever. And honestly, it just stuck with me. And anytime people would say like, why do you curse? I'm like, well, my sentences wouldn't be enhanced without these words. Like I have to have them in my vocabulary. You know what I mean? Obviously I can turn it off. But one of the things that helped me with that, like Lafayette was saying, is starving those things, not having any remnants of that. And the moment that it stopped is when someone explained it like, okay, when you may be saved and you may have stopped cussing, but when that song come on that you love and you used to love in your past life, and you may not say the word, but you still said it in your head. So I might say bleep, but I still know what goes there. You know what I mean? I still say it as I'm singing in my head. So that just gives you an example. That might be extreme for some people. And like I said, I'm an extreme person, but I just choose not to listen to the music at all. You know what I mean? Same with like feel certain desires or sensuality or certain, you know, feelings that I have. Like I don't need to listen to certain music. You know what I mean? I need to listen to all worship music or all, you know, gospel music, or if it's Disney Channel, some High School Musical or something. And that's just me personally. I think it goes with your convictions. But at the same time, if you're really wanting to get rid of something, you can't have anything that is a link to that, because it is so easy to get back to that. It is so easy to compromise on one thing, and now you saying, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna do this or whatever. Or since I can listen to this and I was okay with it, like, you know, I can watch this certain TV show. I love Grey's Anatomy. Like I this new season that came on, I want to watch it so bad. But I had conviction about, okay, why are you watching a TV show that promotes everybody sleeping with each other or adultery and it has cussing in it? You know what I mean? It's just a remnant of things that I don't want to be a part of my life. And I think it's literally starving that. Like, it's hard for me to not get on there and watch it. I want to watch it so bad. But I'm trying to starve myself of things that I feel like had control over me at once. It's like anything that you allow to happen has some type of authority or lordship over you. So if you're let's say if you're in a relationship and you're allowing that person to do certain things, that gives them a certain amount of authority over you. It's the same with whatever your addiction is. If you're feeding into it and you're feeding it and you're feeding it and you're feeding it, you give it a little snack, you know, throwing some scraps off the table to it, it's gonna come back for more. Like, it's going to come back for more, and it's gonna be harder to kick whatever the habit is if you don't starve it.
That's very true. Um, yeah, so definitely that everything and like Wes said, you have to just be real about that this is even a problem. Um, and then Lafayette said about like, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like you gotta cut the thing off. Go cold turkey, whatever it is. But definitely progression over perfection for real. And also I feel like sometimes when it comes to like addictions or getting delivered or trying to be free for something, we try to take matters into our own hands, and we never have the strength to do it ourselves. Like I feel like if we had our own strength to do it, we would be perfect. But obviously, it takes like having to go to God. And I know I did like an episode. It was like titled like "Deliver Not Free" or something like that. I did an episode on that recently this year. And basically too, sometimes it takes like a renewed mind. And what that means is like there are patterns that you have that kind of get you to that. So like what is it? Like is it a coping mechanism that you have, or is it something that something, a trauma that you've experienced, and whenever you have a thought of that, you go to this thing to kind of like escape that. So like basically like getting down to the root of it, and then changing those patterns. And I feel like that should help you truly get delivered. Definitely seek God, definitely seek help, what everybody has said. And have accountability partners, people that know that you're on this journey of like freedom and deliverance from the addiction that you do have. And especially like when it comes to like porn and stuff, like I feel like if you're trying to do that, like you should not be following with certain accounts. Like let's be real, like you gotta block them, unfollow them, do what you gotta do. Because sometimes when you're looking at certain things, these are the type of content that's curated on your feed. Like, you know what I mean? And it can be very tempting to people, and they're like, oh, let me just go watch porn. So if you got to get off social media, do what you got to do. We'll miss you, but do what you got to do for yourself so that you're truly, get freed from that.
And I love how everybody kind of put that all together, because the key word is deliverance. And I think a lot of people focus on the addiction. But first of all, the first step is just figuring out like, what's your end goal? Is it to stop? Is your end goal to actually be freed from it? And then from there, like what said, you have to acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge it, find the why. Why am I engaging in this? What am I missing? What is something that I'm lacking, or I feel like I'm lacking? Because for the most part, anytime somebody has an addiction, like Kiana said, it stems from somewhere. Whether it's you feel left out, whether you feel like you're not being loved, whether you feel like, you're bored, whatever the case is, even if it's just a habit, it's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. So when you identify that reason, it's a lot easier to just not stop cold turkey, but now you have a new mindset, you have a new way of thinking to go about actually being delivered and freed from it. And I think why people fall short when they do end up stopping cold turkey is because they never really got to the foundation, or they never really got to the root of the problem. So like you said, Sam, you have to get to that root of the problem. And a lot of times we can't do it on our own. And that's where ultimately God comes in. But for the most part, even on, in the earthly realm, therapy, like there's nothing wrong with therapy. And if you don't know what it is, it's really where you sit down and you have conversations with people, with someone who's really going to stem those conversations and really get you to talk about those areas where you feel whatever you're feeling, so that way you can get to the root of the issue and move forward from there.
Definitely agreed. Definitely your why, that helps a lot. For sure, because sometimes like people say, oh, that's that to do or not to do that, or you want to do this, but it's like if you don't have your personal why, it's like you can easily just get off, because it's just like, I don't even know why I'm doing this for. I guess it's supposed to be bad, but I feel like having that why in mind really helps push you. Like I try to have everything that I do, there's a why behind it, because that helps to push me to do that, because I have a why. But definitely important. So I said in 20 minutes I'll do another giveaway. So I'm going to write another number, and this time it is 1 through 15. So those of you guys who are still on 1 through 15, I'm writing a number. So the first person who gets that number wins the giveaway. So yeah. So as you guys are doing that, let us let me put that on here. 1 through 15. All right, numbers 1 through 15. Oh, hi, Jasira. Okay, Triple G coming back for another one. No, y'all are close though. Y'all are very close. 1 through 15. 1 through 15. All right. I don't want to go long. No. Let me tell y'all what they're putting. So some of y'all are on Facebook, some of y'all are on YouTube. So y'all see. No, I see. I got 11. I got 13. I got 13. I think just Sierra. I think that's how you. Yes, you got it. 12. It was 12. All right, cool. All right, so I hopefully I'm saying your name correct. Just Sierra. Go ahead and reach out to me. You can find me on the Being One podcast page on Instagram or Being Sam TV, and DM me so I get your information. So you won a Kingdom Citizen tee. So it says Kingdom Citizen. I don't do church. I am the church. And I have that either black or red that I can send to you. So just DM me, and we can talk about that. But yes, you got it. All right. So let's do the last question of the night. And I have 2 questions left, and I guess it's up to y'all what y'all want to answer. So there's one that says boundaries with friends of the opposite sex. And I have, do you feel like women can accept honesty?
Oh, I like that one.
This one? All right, let's talk about this one.
Women or men. We're gonna make that very much.
Why can't be women?
Okay, let's do that. Can women/men?
There we go.
I would personally say, I think it depends on the person. But I do think that a lot of times people cannot handle the raw, honest truth.
Even though they want it.
I really do think people want it, but I think to an extent. I feel that people want you to confirm what they feel. They don't want to know the truth.
Right.
That's good.
Confirm what they feel.
That's good.
They want you to validate what they think about you. But the moment you step outside of that and you tell them something, you hit them with something off guard, they're like, wait a minute, I don't think I can do this anymore. Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's very true. I didn't think about it like that. That's very true. Very true.
It's funny because I think about relationships where like men are like, oh, I'm not ready for a relationship right now and stuff. And sometimes like we take that as okay, like I mean I wasn't trying to be in a relationship, but we still like entertain it, you know what I mean? And like they may like continue to like, they still talk to you and they still do stuff with you, whatever. And so in our back of our minds, like we're not taking them, I don't know, like does that make sense? Like we're not taking them completely seriously. And it's just like they're saying like, yeah, I'm not trying to like, be in that type of relationship that you might want to be in, and we don't take them serious. Like, I don't know, does that still fall along the lines of we can't accept the honesty because we still try?
I think so. I think so, yeah. And then a lot of people get mad, or from my experience, I've seen a lot of women get mad when the man was upfront with them about not wanting to be in a relationship. And then when they show up with somebody else, or they really show you that they don't want to be in a relationship, you act surprised. He told you the truth from the beginning.
Okay,
did you think he was gonna change his mind? Like,
Monica said.
That's all.
That's all. Yeah.
Tyra said we hurt our own feelings.
We be hurting our own feelings.
Yes, we do.
Kim said, yeah. I think we just don't truly And if it's not what we want to hear, like Locke said, we let it go in one ear, not the other. Like, okay, I heard what you said, but I can change you, or I can change that perspective, or this is how I feel, and I'm going to get you to see things my way. And we can't necessarily do that. Like, people think for themselves. Like, if they say what they said, or even their interpretation of you or their opinion of you, like, it is what it is. So I think the word there in that sentence is accept. And I think a lot of times men and women both have a hard time with it.
Yes. That's very true. I was watching something, and it was like this. I think they were dating for like 4 years, and he was just like, oh, he's not ready, or he was saying something about she was like, oh, I'm getting close to that age and I need to have kids, whatever. He's like, oh, I'm not trying to have kids, and she's like, of course not right now, like, in a few years. And he was like, no, like, I'm not trying to have kids. And she's like, yeah, like, we don't, not right now, like, we have to get married first. And then he was just like, well, I'm not, he was like, well, I'm not trying to get married. And then she was like, not right now. And he was like, no, like, I'm not trying. So can you imagine, like, I don't feel like that's the first time they had a conversation, but they were dating for 4 years. And she's thinking like, oh, today's the day he's going to propose. And this whole time, this man didn't want to get married, and he didn't want to have kids.
That conversation needed to be had. That conversation needed to be had 3 years ago.
But he told her. She thought he was going to be able to change the situation. But he did what he said.
I've experienced, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, oh, you'll change your mind. Like, I'm a grown man. I pretty much know what I'm trying to do. Like,
that is true. Like Tyra said, women like the challenge of changing a man. Sit down, sis. Sounds like Joan Carol. No, for real. Poor Joan. But that is true. And now that I'm thinking about it, I do feel like that. Like, I feel like sometimes, like, we'll hear stuff, but it's just like in the back of our minds, like, he say that now, but wait till you know me for real. Like,
just wait.
Right. Like, you're gonna want to wipe me up. Like, just give a few months, like, whatever.
And disappointed.
Disappointed, for real. Hurting our own feelings. And then now you're 4 years in the relationship and he was dead serious. Like,
no kids or marriage.
Right. Right. I was like, damn, I felt so bad. I said, wow, sis. Not 4 years.
Living in a fantasy land.
Fantasy.
Living in a fantasy. So, like,
your husband was over there.
Had to be there to pick you back up when that man was honest with you 10 years ago.
Monica, that's fact. She said your husband was over there the whole time, and you over here messing with no marriage, no kids, wanting Tom over here
trying to fix this man when the man God has for you is right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, and that brings me even to God. Like, even when God is trying to be honest with us sometimes, and we don't want to hear it, where God is just like, "No, you're not gonna find your husband this year," but we don't want to hear that. Like, you know, like, it ain't happening this year. But it's just like, no, that's the devil. That's the devil.
Right. I'm at least meet him, okay?
Right. And then it's just like, then we get excited because then comes December 31st, and we're like, well, dang, I really, nobody, not even at the church. Like, right. And it's like, we gotta accept the honesty. Like, God's not gonna, he's not gonna steer us wrong. He said it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
I mean, but you think about it. Society has kind of made us that way. Like, even in school, somebody keep asking you a question until you answer it the way they want to. You know, it's this thing of presenting in a way to be correct, not necessarily actually presenting how you feel and, you know, what you think in that moment. So I think we carry that into all aspects of our life, down to church people not being transparent and putting on the jargon, down to us pretending like a relationship is going to work, knowing that it's not. Like, these are what stems from creating societal norms and cultural norms. Like, we run into stuff like this because this isn't a problem in every culture. I don't think. Like, I don't think so, but
With the American culture be on some other stuff. Like,
but then too, I wonder because when we talk about I feel like I don't know, because I was gonna say sometimes I feel like the honesty, it doesn't seem like it's like cutthroat, like this isn't it, because I feel like we hear certain things so many times where it's just like, oh yeah, I've heard that before, but we don't take it serious in a sense. And I feel like, I don't know, like let's say you don't want to be in a relationship, like then don't put on, like don't do relationship things or leave me in that way that has me thinking that your mind could be changed. Like, you know what I mean? So
but what about the women who take someone being nice to them as wanting to be in a relationship? Like, do y'all want somebody to just dog y'all out and like is that what y'all need to believe that somebody's not into you? Or like, even though like, or do y'all feel like y'all can't be friends in that? And like, because for me, I may not like somebody, but that may be a really good friend to me. Like, what if I want to go out to eat with you and we just talk? Like, nothing relationship wise, I actually see a good friend in you. Like,
I don't think that's a problem unless you engaged in some type of relational activity prior to that. Like, I feel like women, I'm speaking for myself, like I can be friends with a guy, but if we had sex already or if we've been in a relationship, I can't be your friend just for the fact that I'm going to be reminiscing or at least thinking about what we used to have, and the fact that we don't have that now. That's taking a whole new learning. Like, you have to relearn that person in that light. So I think that's where the problem comes in at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like if it's innocent, like I wouldn't take it like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we're going on, hanging out and stuff like that, like anything. I think that when, like Monica said, I feel like when certain things are being done, that makes me feel as though like, okay, well, if you could do this, then I mean, you say you don't want a relationship now, you're gonna want a relationship probably like, I don't know, when you're ready, I'll wait type of stuff. And it's just like, how do we avoid hurting our feelings if we feel as though we're being led to, like have hope in that sense? And I feel like a lot of people go wrong because they hold on. Sometimes, I don't know.
I think for me, I really had to understand that anything that comes from God is effortless. And if I'm stretching my neck out more than that person, or if I feel like I'm doing, like it's taking a lot of effort for me, like I'm having to do extra and having to do a lot to even know if me and that person are gonna have any type of relationship, or if there is gonna be a relationship, then 9 times out of 10 it's not for me, because God, anything that comes from God, honestly, will fall on your lap. Like, obviously, there's things that we have to do. We have to position ourselves, or if He calls us to go out to this place where we gonna meet that person, you know what I mean? Like, there's things like that, but at the same time, it's gonna be effortless. It's gonna be something that just works. Like, if it's from God and if it's what He wants for you, it's just gonna work out, and you're not gonna have to be doing too much hard, contemplating and thinking about it. And me personally, I'm that person. I overthink everything. I'm like, okay, well, this person did this, so like, does that mean this? You know what I mean? That's how I was in the past. And like, I really this year had to turn over a new leaf and be like, you know what, God, I'm not doing anything extra. I'm going where you lead me to go. I'm listening to the Spirit, and if that is supposed to happen, then it'll happen. And it always happens. It's always ordained by God, and not like, okay, let me try to do this. Because honestly, if I'm doing a lot and trying to make a person think a certain thing, then are they really authentically thinking that anyway? You know what I mean? Like you said, us as women, we set ourselves up to get our feelings hurt. And a lot of times that's why we say, like, okay, this is what we want. So we try to make it look like that's what it is. Or we try to make that person think like, okay, well, I'm wifey material, so like you better wipe me up while you got a chance. Like, don't miss out on me. And then it's like, all right, fine. But then is that person really content? Like, you want both of y'all to be ready. You want both of y'all to be happy. You want both of y'all to be content. Like, I don't want you with me if you're only with me because of what I told you about myself. I want you with me because you love me and you want to be with me.
Right.
Because later you're gonna be like, dang, I really wasn't even feeling this, to begin with. And then again, my little feelings gonna be hurt.
Very true. That is very true. And I feel like like what you said about if you gotta put in so much, you gotta do the most, and you gotta do cartwheels, bend over back, like it's doing too much. It's probably not it. And I'm listening. I'm learning to take what people say. Like, man, I'm learning to take what they say to listen. You say you're not ready for relate. Okay, no problem. Bye. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not even entertain that because we're not doing that. I'm not trying to hurt my feelings.
Right. And why would I do cartwheels and bend over backwards for you and not do it for myself? Like some women, they'll go do it for a man, but yeah, you won't even participate in self-care. Like, girl, take care of yourself first. If he don't want you, he don't want you.
You don't want it.
That's
good.
it.
That's it.
I love it.
I love it. No, but for real, that's good. So yeah, take what they say. Don't kid yourself, because obviously they said what they said. And if they said what they said and they knew they were being honest with you and you're still pressing and stuff like that, they gonna buy it in. But they still said what they said. Like, they might do stuff with you, but they said what they said. So yeah, take that. But I know we got to 2 hours, so that was the questions. The other question, I feel like I could probably answer that in the DMs for them. That's fine. So y'all, it's season 2 finale. So yeah, this is a closing of season 2. We had to run it back. But I just want to thank everybody who was a part of season 2. Thank you guys for the conversations, the laugh, the realness, the rawness, everything in between. Thank you, Kiana, for coming through during the season and your input and following. Thank you, Wes, for coming on today on the season finale. Thank you, Lafayette, for being down season 1 and season 2. He had to come back for season 2. We definitely appreciate your rawness, your realness. You keep it real with us, and we appreciate it. Monica, listen, we thank you for your words, your wisdom. She be preaching on here.
We love it. Yes, love to see it. We love the Monica.
Listen, Monica, her own self. Like, we definitely appreciate you. Thank you so much. For even season 1, you would come on when I needed you, and season 2 you held it down, and I definitely appreciate you and your perspective for sure. So yeah, y'all know I love y'all. I definitely love y'all for real. Thank you guys so much for just partnering up with me and the vision I have for this platform where we can have these conversations and just like sharing our story and being real, because sometimes it's not easy to to talk about, your faults and just be real to help others, but you guys do it. And I definitely appreciate that. I learned so much from you guys, and I'm sure they learned so much from you guys as well. But yeah, season 2 it's done. And season 3 is kind of like to be TBA with our hosts, our new friends coming on, and the date will be back. But definitely those of you guys who watch these lives, you guys can definitely follow, keep updated, keep being updated with us on the Instagram page, as well as the Facebook page, as well as Apple Podcasts, or even on Spotify. It's called the Being One Podcast. And I just want to play this short video, just promoting the teas that you guys can purchase. And if you are local, like if you are in my city or down south, I'll have shirts on hand. So if that's more convenient for you, you guys can purchase a shirt. So I'm gonna play the short video, and then we're gonna close out.
Look what I got in the mail today. This is from Sam with Being One Podcast. Human Citizen Mountain Church. It's a message. It's a message. It's a message. I can't wait to wear it. But I'll be wearing sweatshirt. Love it. Kingdom citizen. I can seriously hear Samantha's voice saying, I love it.
All right. So the link for that has been posted. I'll make sure that it's posted for YouTube as well, so you guys can get that link to purchase your own Kingdom Citizen tee. It says I don't do church, I am the church. All right. But let us close out. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. It's been 2 hours and 14 minutes, but we had to do it big for the season finale. And if you want something, make sure that you reach out to me so that you can claim your prize. But yeah, so anybody wanted to volunteer to close us out in prayer? Yay, nay? No visitors. Okay. All right. Keanu, you said what? Y'all are mute.
You're mute.
I said
Oh,
I'll pray. I'm over here like, I'll pray.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. God, we just thank you so much, Lord. We know that for our age range, there are not very many places that where we can go and have these conversations and also go and hear other people talk about these conversations and their personal stories, God. So I just thank you so much for allowing Sam to be the vessel to create this platform for this to happen. We thank you so much for her and her vision and her life. And that she was willing to do this and go forth and say yes to this project, God. We know that it has blessed so many people and that it will continue to bless people in the coming future. God, I pray for every single person that watched this live, God, that they got some type of revelation from you, Lord, for their own personal lives, God, because we know that you want healthy, godly relationships for us. And that's not always easy in our culture. But God, we pray that there are more of these things that come out so that people can have answers from you about their relationships and about their lives, Lord. We just thank you for everyone who's also participating, God, that you just bless them and that you keep them safe, God, in everything that they do. All of us on here, that you keep us safe going to work, whatever it is that we're doing, that you keep us safe and help us to continue to have this boldness, Father, to speak about you and to speak about our personal experiences so that they can be a testimony that helps someone else, Lord. We just pray for your protection. We pray for your guidance and to hear your voice. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you guys so much. We love you and have a good night. See you on season 3.